First, let's reflect on some common realities. Have you ever noticed that we often feel that what wasn't chosen initially might have been the better option? When standing at a crossroads between a career and further education, if you choose work, after a few years, you might regret not continuing your studies. When facing the dilemma of sacrificing your career for your children, no matter which path you choose, you'll later think, if only I hadn't made that choice then, how much better things would be. It seems incredibly difficult for us to make decisions without a mix of regret. At the moment of choice, we believe we are rational enough, but looking back, it seems we haven't considered all aspects when making a decision. So, where does the problem lie? In the book Six Thinking Hats, the author points out that this is because we don't know when to use rationality and when to allow emotions to evaluate a problem. We fail to distinguish between objective information and innovative ideas. We constantly try to solve too many issues simultaneously: emotions, information, logic, hope, and ideas all jumbled together in our minds, as if we are clumsily juggling too many balls at once. As a result, we become confused and struggle to make a comprehensive decision. This is a common issue for individuals, and for organizations and teams, this thinking style also leads to inefficient and time-consuming work and discussions. For instance, when meetings are mentioned, many people often have a negative impression. Everyone wants to express their opinions, even arguing passionately until they're red in the face, while others remain silent to avoid conflict. Ultimately, meetings drag on for hours without reaching any useful conclusions. What has turned meetings, meant for a common purpose, into such a nightmare for so many? The answer is that each person's thinking style often leads them to form a conclusion first and then defend it. We tend to use emotions to evaluate a problem, and then use reason to justify our own views or refute the opponent's. At this point, reason can easily transform into mere rationalization. This way of thinking is not effective in work. So, what is the right way to approach it? Dr. Edward de Bono introduced a comprehensive thinking model with 6 hats. It provides a tool for parallel thinking, aiming to solve problems most effectively instead of wasting time on conflicting arguments. This book is suitable not only for individuals, but also for teams and organizations. It has been a global bestseller for over 30 years, translated into 40 languages, published in 54 countries, benefiting hundreds of the world's leading companies, tens of millions of employees, professionals, and students, and continues to be used today. The emergence of the 6 thinking hats saved the fate of the Olympic Games when the organizers of the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics applied this creative thinking approach, transforming the Games from a burden into an attractive event that generated a profit of $150 million USD. 2 Norwegian international oil companies once faced an oil assembly problem costing $100,000 USD per day. After applying the 6 thinking hats, this problem was resolved within 12 minutes, reducing the daily cost of $100,000 USD to zero. Or, the international investment bank JP Morgan used this thinking method to reduce meeting times by 80% and change the corporate culture across Europe. Another case is the multinational corporation app, which typically took 30 days to discuss an international project. But after applying the 6 thinking hats, discussion time was reduced to just 2 days. At this point, many might ask, it sounds so profound, are the 6 thinking hats difficult to learn? The answer, of course, is no. In fact, the 6 thinking hats model is not complicated at all. On the contrary, it's a fundamental basis for developing more comprehensive thinking. What we need to practice is understanding the thinking direction of each of the 6 hats systematically. This thinking method can help you develop your career, work effectively with teams, make wise choices in life, avoid conflicts, and achieve effective communication with others. Now, let's delve into the core insights from this book. First, let's explore how these 6 thinking hats work. The author states that everyone has 6 thinking hats, each a different color, representing 6 distinct ways of thinking. Since each hat represents a type of thinking, we'll imagine 6 people, each wearing a different colored hat, participating in a meeting, and they will assume the following roles. First is the person wearing the white thinking hat. White represents neutrality and objectivity. This thinking style focuses on facts and data, free from emotions and personal opinions. When wearing the white hat, this person typically considers three questions. What information do we currently have? What additional information do we need? How can we obtain the necessary information? Next is the person wearing the red thinking hat. Red symbolizes emotions, temper, and intuition. This thinker always asks, how do I feel about this? This thinking doesn't require evidence, reasons, or a basis and can quickly lead to conclusions. However, wearing the red hat can also help one listen to their true inner feelings. Following that is the person wearing the black thinking hat. Black is gloomy and serious, representing criticism and caution. This black hat thinking helps a person see the flaws in a problem, avoiding blind optimism. The questions posed during this thinking process are, where is the problem? What is wrong with this way of thinking? What will be the outcome if we think this way? Conversely, the person wearing the yellow thinking hat. Yellow is like a ray of sunshine, representing optimism, hope, and positivity. The yellow hat wearer sees the bright side of an issue, filled with confidence and motivation. The questions they often consider are, what are the positive aspects? What valuable angles are there? Is there anything attractive about this idea? Then comes the person wearing the green thinking hat. Green makes us think of plants and vitality. It also represents innovation and reform. Wearing the green thinking hat helps us break free from conventions and bravely experiment with new things. This hat wearer will think, what ideas do we have? Is there another way to do this? What else could we do? Finally, there's the person wearing the blue thinking hat. This blue is the color of the sky, representing an overarching perspective. The blue hat wearer is responsible for controlling and adjusting the thinking process, summarizing ideas, and drawing conclusions. The thought process revolves around questions such as, what have we accomplished? What do we need to do? What is our next step? These 6 thinking hats represent 6 different ways of thinking, yet they complement each other and make our thinking more comprehensive and profound. However, what's the problem here? When will these 6 people argue? When will your thinking become chaotic? When will we fail to solve problems effectively? It's when 6 people wear 6 different colored hats at the same time, each with their own idea. The result will be no one yielding, problems remaining unsolved, and everyone becoming adversarial. This is chaos. Now, imagine when you, as an individual, try to solve a problem. Inside you, there are always 6 people with 6 different thinking hats. If you don't establish a clear order and allow all 6 hats to speak at once, you will certainly become disoriented. Recall how many times you've tackled a difficult problem and felt your mind was in complete disarray. This is precisely because your thinking lacks system and order. We constantly apply too many types of thinking to a single problem, or use the wrong color hat in the wrong sequence, leading to incoherent thoughts, an incomplete perspective, and flawed problem-solving methods. Just as the book, The One Thing states, we cannot handle many things at once, as this increases the risk of errors. If you're listening to an audiobook while chopping vegetables and the story becomes too captivating, you might very well cut your finger. Thinking is similar. To avoid this chaos, we must grasp a fundamental yet incredibly effective principle, wearing the 6 thinking hats sequentially and in an orderly manner, using one hat at a time, then moving to the next. For teams, it's crucial that everyone at the same moment wears the same colored thinking hat. Think thoroughly and only then switch to a different hat color. This is parallel thinking where each person follows their own thought process, but for each aspect of the problem, we think in parallel, moving towards a common goal. As for individuals, you need a comprehensive 6 thinking hat system to know which hat to wear first and which to wear next, following a logical order. Only then will you avoid regretting what you've said or done. It's important to note here that the assumption of 6 people wearing 6 hats is merely to help us visualize. The 6 thinking hats are actually 6 directions of thought within one person. It's not meant to describe or categorize someone as having a red hat personality or another as a black hat thinker. That's not how it works. Precisely, any person can use any of these 6 thinking hats. So next, we'll move to the most important part, understanding how to use these 6 hats, learning their systematic order, and when to use which thinking hat. First and foremost, to use them optimally, we need to clearly understand the underlying mechanism by which the thinking hats complement and support each other. Without a clear foundation, applying the 6 thinking hats will become mechanical. First, we'll explore the white and red hats, emotion and reason like a dance in the brain. When you see a student in class, chin in hand, pencil in mouth, staring off to the side, what's your first thought? Do you perhaps think this child is daydreaming or distracted? Clearly, when we observe a scene, we often tend to judge based on preconceived notions and past experiences. Just like when your spouse comes home late, your first reaction might very well be, "Where have you been, late again?" Instead of simply stating, "You're home late." At this point, the white thinking hat helps us perceive things most neutrally. The author says the white hat helps us distinguish between facts and interpretations. When wearing the white thinking hat, we can gather relevant information, providing a solid foundation for later thinking. You'll notice this is similar to how the police operate. They don't rush to interpret or trust things that merely resemble the truth, but rather collect a large amount of factual data to trace the details of the truth. For any event or problem, we must wear the white hat before uttering a word or drawing a conclusion. The objective attitude of the white hat transforms us into an impartial judge, helping us handle issues without being influenced by personal biases. Only when you've understood enough facts can you take off the white hat and put on the red thinking hat. Completely different from white thinking, red thinking provides emotions and feelings. If you don't wear the white hat first and rush to put on the red hat to perceive a problem, you'll easily solve it emotionally, struggling to control the angry, hot-headed devil within due to what's displeasing. In summary, the underlying mechanism here is that when solving a problem, you always need to wear the white hat first, and only then put on the red thinking hat. Because only then can the red hat unleash its wonderful potential, to tap into your most genuine emotions and feelings and let intuition guide you. This emotional release is like an enthusiastic artist, helping you tackle problems with passion and creativity. This interplay of emotion and reason is like a dance in our brain. We must learn to switch skillfully between the white and red hats. Many people, when making decisions, rely either solely on reason or solely on emotion. Learning to transition appropriately between these two hats will help our decisions become more insightful. Next, let's explore the mechanism between the black and yellow thinking hats. Pessimism and optimism are both essential elements on our life's journey. Perhaps many of you are familiar with the story of the half-full glass of water. With the same glass, some see it as half full, while others see it as only half empty. So, which way of thinking is better? Many might believe that the optimistic, half-full thinking is better, but according to the author, both optimistic and pessimistic ways of thinking are necessary. If you think half-full in the 6 thinking hats model, this corresponds to the yellow thinking hat. The yellow thinking hat represents positive evaluation. It's a constructive and encouraging way of thinking. When facing difficulties, we particularly need to think with the yellow hat, and when solving problems, the yellow thinking hat is used to seek solutions, stimulating our potential. This optimistic attitude is like a bright guide. Conversely, thinking only half empty corresponds to the black thinking hat. Compared to the yellow thinking hat, the black hat is like a cautious engineer, addressing problems more carefully and comprehensively. It seeks to avoid dangers and difficulties, pointing out disadvantages, risks, or harmful things that need attention. It is also the basis for our survival and success. These two thinking hats, black and yellow, remind me of explorer Ernest Shackleton's legendary journey to the South Pole. He journeyed to the Antarctic 4 times, facing difficult circumstances each time. Particularly during his 3rd expedition, he encountered extreme weather, yet he led his expedition team through more than 700 days of struggle, ultimately bringing all members back safely. In this event, Shackleton maximized the functions of both the black and yellow thinking hats. Yellow hat thinking gave him hope for the future, while black hat thinking helped him pay careful attention to the harsh current environment, being more cautious in every detail. Without one or the other, no miracle would have occurred. As Winston Churchill, one of the greatest prime ministers in British history, once said, "A pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity, an optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty." In reality, both are not contradictory. Therefore, when evaluating a problem, it's essential to wear the black and yellow thinking hats sequentially. The best order is the yellow hat first, followed by the black hat. Thinking about value first and then difficulties helps us generate positive momentum. If we think about difficulties first, it will diminish our self-confidence and positivity, even leading to pessimism where we disregard potential value. Additionally, after using the black hat, we need the green hat. The black hat helps us identify problems, difficulties, and risks, but the green hat, used afterward, encourages us to think and explore solutions to the black hat's concerns. If there's no green hat after the black hat, people won't come up with solution ideas, and the problem will be difficult to resolve. Next, we'll delve deeper into the green thinking hat through its reciprocal relationship with the blue thinking hat. Ideas can soar, but actions must be practical. When meetings are mentioned, many people find it a headache. For example, in a project development meeting, people express soaring ideas, even discussing for several hours continuously, yet when the meeting concludes, everything seems to revert to the starting point. The meeting yields no practical conclusions, nor any clear plan for the next steps. Such a meeting would only waste time. If we had the blue thinking hat here, things would be different. The author states that the blue hat is the control hat. When we wear it, we can act like a conductor, defining the thinking topic, focusing on key points, and framing the problem. Simply put, the blue thinking hat oversees, summarizes, and organizes the entire thinking process. Therefore, to achieve accurate conclusions in a meeting, using the blue hat is most appropriate. Moreover, we also know that creative ideas are indispensable. This requires us to wear the green thinking hat, which challenges old notions and opens new horizons for us. This spirit of innovation is like a brave explorer, helping us tackle problems with countless possibilities. As the founder of Panasonic once said, anyone who does not reflect and merely drifts through life will become desolate. The reflection needed here is the combination of the blue and green thinking hats. For the hopeful ideas of the green hat to become reality, there must first be the analytical and synthesizing thought of the blue hat. Note that the blue hat plays an extremely crucial role in our thinking process. Each segment should begin and end with the blue hat. You can visualize the blue hat like the cover of a book. At the start, the blue hat defines the core problem and the order of hat usage. At the end, it summarizes and plans the next steps. Now that we've clearly understood the foundational mechanisms by which the thinking hats complement and support each other, we'll delve into the specific order for using this 6-hat system. In this section, I will separately analyze the thinking hat order system for teams, for individuals, and for communication applications so you can choose what suits your needs. First, for teams, there are typically 3 types of sequences applied depending on different situations. However, in any case, team members must first agree on a synchronized sequence. We will cover 3 useful types of sequences for teams as follows. The first type is the fixed sequence. When preparing and conducting a meeting, you should initiate the 6 thinking hat system with the following colors. First, blue, then white, then green, followed by yellow, black, and red. This corresponds to the following thinking directions. First, summarizing the process. Next, gathering information. Then, ideas, analyzing benefits, analyzing risks, and finally, passion and emotions. During the meeting, the thinking hats will be used sequentially in this order, with time allocated for each hat. This fixed sequence will help each member grasp the core focus of the meeting. By systematically using the chosen thinking styles in sequence, the meeting will progress methodically. The second type of sequence for teams is flexible insertion. Sometimes, we cannot always think in a fixed sequence as described above. When there isn't complete information or preparation, we need to flexibly insert thinking. For example, we might start with the blue hat, followed by yellow, black, and then red. The white hat can be inserted between blue and yellow if sufficient information is available. Additionally, if there are innovative ideas, add the green hat after using the red hat. The third type for teams is a flexible sequence, depending on the specific situation. When should the sequence be applied? When the speaking order in a meeting is uncertain, this flexible sequence will help you better meet everyone's speaking needs. For instance, we might use the red hat first, then black or yellow. Here, we must pay attention to managing the time for the entire process. First, allocate at least 30 seconds for the red hat. Second, inform everyone about the time allocation, roughly 3 to 4 minutes per hat. Finally, you can extend the time for each hat if necessary. However, to be more specific, the system's usage sequence can be broken down, with hats used repeatedly at different stages. Here, I have a more detailed sequence for teams. For example, in a meeting, we can divide the team meeting into 3 phases. Phase 1, opening the meeting. At the start of the meeting, we use the blue hat to introduce the topic, establish the hat order, and allocate time, outlining the steps and content. Next, we use the red hat to express emotions. Following that, use the white hat to share known information and necessary information, finding the objective facts. Remember, in this phase, we will not use the black or green hats. Phase 2, middle of the meeting. Here, we first use the blue hat to summarize the current content and check progress. Then, wear the red hat to check for changes in emotions. Next, the white hat gathers more information. Following that, the green hat focuses on ideas. Then, switch to the yellow hat to seek practical value. Next, wear the black hat to identify potential difficulties and shortcomings. Finally, we switch to the blue hat once more to find corrective methods for the black hat's concerns. Phase 3, concluding the meeting. In this phase, you must once again wear the blue hat to summarize, conclude, and outline the next steps. Once more, we put on the red hat to check reactions and achieve consensus. Next, wear the green hat to improve some previous ideas or list other alternative methods. Finally, switch to the black hat to check for potential problems, if any. At this final stage, we can also combine it with the red hat to reinforce enthusiasm. Above is the systematic order for wearing the thinking hats for teams. Now, we will continue to explore how to apply the systematic order for individuals. When encountering a problem that requires deliberation, a decision, or as a team member participating in teamwork, you can use the following sequence to review a problem. First, use the blue hat to answer the question, what is the core of the problem? Next, wear the yellow hat. What are the benefits and advantages? What is working well? What positive aspects are there, including what already exists and its potential? Next is the black hat. What are the current challenges and disadvantages? What are the existing and potential problems? Then, we will use the green hat to overcome the issues raised by the black hat by asking, are there any new methods? Are there any new creative ideas? And next, we will wear the white hat. What additional information is needed? How will you obtain that information? What about other members of your team? Do they have anything to add to the information you already have? Then we will wear the red hat. What does your intuition say? How do you feel? Here, we need to note that you don't need to try to explain the reasons or rationalize them. Just jot down 1 or 2 sentences. Finally, we will once again wear the blue hat in the last step to summarize your thoughts. If possible, draw a final conclusion using all these analyses and considerations, and create an action plan for yourself. Finally, we will explore the systematic order of the 6 thinking hats for communication. Here. First, we use the white hat to answer the question, what information do you know about this topic? Have these facts been objectively confirmed? Next, we wear the green hat. What ideas can you come up with? Then wear the blue hat. What outcome are we trying to achieve? Next, the red hat. Would you mind putting aside the red hat for a few minutes? This implies a request to temporarily set aside emotional reactions for more objective discussion. Next, the black hat. Where could errors occur? Finally, the yellow hat. What positive aspects are there in this? So, this summarizes the entire essence of this book. It can be said that the 6 thinking hats are a tool to reestablish order in your thinking, helping you escape the chaos and jumbled thoughts in your mind. From there, you gain a comprehensive and profound perspective, generating many new ideas for life and work. With the 6 thinking hats method, our focus shifts from "what is this?" to "how can this be?" It moves from complaining about the current situation to establishing a path forward. When using the 6 thinking hats, we can use any hat according to our needs. It's not necessary to use all of them. The ideal state is always a predetermined sequence of hats. There is no single, correct order. The sequence can change depending on the topic and the user. These are merely thinking tools, not a rigid template. And the extremely important point here is that you need to build your own comprehensive thinking foundation and system. The purpose of the 6 thinking hats is to help you establish order in your brain, avoid losing emotional control, prevent one-sided views of problems, overcome shortcomings in problem-solving approaches, and enable self-innovation. As the saying goes, if a thing can be reflected upon, it can certainly be thought about clearly. Therefore, I hope we all never stop reflecting. Train your thinking. Learn to think carefully before speaking and making decisions. This can help us become a more clear-headed person in life.